New overlay, very exciting. I made it with the Canva account that was given to me by MedSoc. So thanks to them. What we're going to talk about today is how we got into med school, guys. How it's genuinely a wild story. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. All right, so let's start with why I want to do medicine in the first place, right? So I talked about it in the stream earlier, but I had decided that I want to do medicine since like when I was 7 years old, right? It was a very long-term decision. I have really lucked out into finding something that I wanted to do very early on in life. And I actually didn't realize that people don't really know what they are doing, what they wanted to do in life before I actually came into like year 11 and 12. And everyone was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do in uni. I'm like, how? But everyone knows what they need to do in uni because everyone is like me. So that was a real shocker to me. So I feel very lucky that I was able to find something that I really, really enjoy. Because I've always been a science kid. I was really, really passionate about like biology and stuff like that. And I could study. I used to study for fun. You know, like biology never felt like effort. It always was like, oh, okay, cool. Now I know something more about this world. It was also really important to me because this is the answer I've given in my med interview, but it genuinely is the truth. I genuinely believe that everyone has a purpose in life, and my purpose, I feel, is to make a difference. And I wanted to make that difference to be a good difference, and I wanted to go into the path that would best provide me to be able to do that, right? And what I found out was that medicine is the best way to do the most amount of good from the skill set that I had at the time as well. So getting into med school has a very big step attached to it, which is getting through high school. Now, as any med student can tell you, high school is hell. High school was a tough time, man. It really was. Especially because when you decide this early on what you want to do, your entire focus changes from having a social life to studying the most, getting the best marks. That kind of stuff starts mattering a lot more. So what ended up happening was that I came to Australia when I was in year 10. It was purely a academic move from my part. Like, I essentially moved out alone when I was like 15. I would have one of my parents staying with me almost all the time, but they still had their jobs back in India, so they were like moving countries back and forth every like 3 months, right? So my dad would stay with 3 months, then my mom would come. They would have like a little bit of overlap period where we spent some like family time. When my dad would leave, and then my mom would stay with me for 3 months, and so on and so forth, right? Rinse and repeat for like 3 years basically. Like that took a toll, man. I moved from New Delhi, which is a city of 20 million people, to a country of 20 million people. And in that country of 20 million people, I moved into a rural town, a population of like 5,000, which is absurd to think about as an Indian, right? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, we have schools larger than the town. I know of schools in India that have like 6,000 students, and that's just the students. That's not even counting like the staff and admin and all that shit. So that was a really alien concept to me. I had space to move my arms around. It was great. What wasn't great though was that because when you grow up in a city, you get used to the city lifestyle, and when you go into a rural town, it's really, really different. The most exciting thing that happened in that town in the 3 years I was there was that a Macca's was built. I shit you not. That was the big deal. Yeah, it was a very big adjustment, and I had I was bullied in middle school and earlier, and it had taken me a long time to actually develop a group of friends that I really trusted, and that was back in India, right? And then I moved to Australia, lost that entire friend group. Well, not lost. There was people I'm still in touch with today. It was really harsh on my mental health in that period. And at the moment, I didn't realize it. I wasn't ready to confront that because I had this weird feeling of I don't want to show weakness over this move. I want to show that I'm well adjusted. And even in that school, I found it really difficult for the first year at least to make friends and have a social life of any kind, because we didn't have a car, so I couldn't actually exactly move around. And in that town, because there are only 5,000 people, public transport is at a minimum, and it doesn't happen over the weekend. So moving around became really difficult. And also moving in from India, financially speaking, it was a very big commitment, right? Because you can live with a tenth of a salary of the average Australian in India, and you'll be living a very comfortable life. You will probably be in the top 10% of India if you live on an average Australian salary. No, if you live on an average Australian salary, you will be in like the upper echelon of society in India, right? If you make the 1/10 of the average, which is just like $10,000 a year, you are still like a middle. That's what's considered like a decent life in India, you know? So I was, of course, more privileged than that. Otherwise, I couldn't have made this move to Australia, which again, fully acknowledge the privilege I've had compared to a lot of other things I've seen in my time in India, right? So that was a really difficult move. And the only reason we didn't make that move was because we wanted to go to this very specific school. That was the only school in Australia. I think it's I definitely know it's the only school in Victoria to just do the IB. I think it's also the only school in Australia to just do the IB. IB is in the International Baccalaureate. It is an international education system. In my opinion, one of the best education system out there, and it's hard and it's a lot of work. IB was really difficult on me as well, because I've always been the smart kid. I've always been the smartest kid in class till I started the IB and I came to this new school. And when you've attached so much of your personality into being smart and you suddenly realize, oh shit, maybe I'm not that smart, that is a really difficult pill to swallow, man. Like that actually like shattered me more than people realize. But I worked hard. I remember my first ever chemistry exam in year 11. So IB is a 2-year course, year 11 and 12. In year 11, I had my first chemistry exam, and I got like a 65% on that. And I like genuinely, I started crying. I had never gotten something that low, you know. In IB terms, that's a 6 out of 7 for chemistry HL. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but that was like that flipped my worldview. I was like, this is really tough. I used to cry every week, being like, I can't do this. I also cried very personally. My parents did not know any of this was going on. Yeah, that was just a really harsh time. But yeah, so in year 11, 12, my mental health issues became super severe. I was depressed, anxious. I started getting panic attacks for the first time, which was really scary. Got my first panic attack in the middle of a math exam and failed that exam. And that's still to date the only exam I've ever failed. That was difficult, man. That was a tough time. I had this really fucked up mindset that I can't be a doctor if I am having mental health issues, because why would anyone trust someone who's broken to fix them? So I kept this to myself for the longest time. The one time I told my parents that, I distinctly remember this. So I had a panic attack in the shower. I like lost consciousness. I just like didn't know what was going on. It was a like I was in a really bad place. I had school that day, couldn't go to school. I was lying in my bed, and my mom was there with me, and she was on call with my dad. She thought I was sleeping, and I heard my dad say over the phone, like, do you think he's faking it? And that like crushed me, you know. Like I felt like I can't even trust my parents with this kind of stuff. A lot of damage, dude. A lot of damage. Then finally reached out to a psychologist when I realized shit was really getting bad. I was having suicidal thoughts, all the entire 9 yards. Went to a psychologist. So our school had a psychologist, and it was completely confidential, which was really important to me. So I felt like my parents can't know about this. So I talked to a psychologist about it. That really helped me out of my situation, and progressively kept getting better grades in the IB system. Learned a lot about research, reflection, all that shit, which is really, really important. And that's why I think the IB is superior to almost any other board. Yeah, so finished the IB. Writing that final exam is still one of the most ecstatic feelings I've had, because the day I finished my final exam was also the day my graduation ceremony was. I was literally the last exam to happen that year. So yeah, that was a great feeling. The results came out, and I needed a 38 out of 45 minimum to be even considered for a medical program at any university in Australia. It's not, and I was in Victoria at the time, so my goal was to get into Monash. The score I got was 37. Still the most crushed I felt ever, because I realized that the dream I had had for 10 years at that point was not going to come true. That 1 week was really harsh on me, because felt completely useless, worthless, self-respect, self-value was at an all-time low. And then out of the fucking blue, 1 week later, I 1 week later made my peace with that fact that this is not going to happen. And then I got a call. I got a call from UNSW, the head of admissions of UNSW Medicine or something like that. The med school is one of the only schools that actually takes interviews from their applicants, and to get through the interview process you need to sit the exam, and your predicted grade for the IB has to be higher than what the required grade is, right? I had done an interview with them like 3 weeks ago. I had done an interview with a bunch of unis like at the same period of time. I think it went pretty well personally, and then like a month later they gave me this call. They're like, oh, so we really want you to come here. We understand that your grades aren't high, like your IB grade wasn't high enough, but you're really, really close. And the interview you gave us was probably the best interview we've ever heard. And then they started listing off these other tests and asking like if I'd done these other tests, right? So this included stuff like the ACT, SAT, shit like that. And through sheer fucking luck, I had done the SATs back in like year 10. Because back then I was like, oh, USA is probably a good option for med school, and then later, like, I didn't apply to a single US school, right? But USA for me was a legitimate option back in year 10. And I had done the SATs back in year 10 because I felt like I wouldn't have had time to do it in year 11 and 12. So I did the SATs, and they needed, I think their minimum requirement was 1350. I had a 1375, and they were like, yep, congratulations, we would like to offer you a place in UNSW Medicine. Life completely changed. Honestly, I had put in a UNSW application out of a whim. The only reason why I'm in medicine is because of that one phone call. I still don't know who that person was to this day, but that like genuinely completely changed my life. I put in a UNSW application like as a plan like Z or X, Y, or Z. I wasn't even thinking of coming here because I was so sure I was going to get into Monash. But I'm very glad I did. I really am. I genuinely believe that this is probably better for me and my style I want to do medicine in than Monash or any other university in Victoria that I would have rather gone to. And I sometimes I still can't believe it. I really can't believe it sometimes. The weird part was though that Tom started in UNSW in like 3 weeks from that call. So I had to arrange flights, arrange admissions, arrange like where the fuck I was going to live, because I wasn't in Sydney. I don't know what the fuck goes on here. I had to arrange all of that in like 3 weeks. And I remember coming to Sydney, and me and my mom had just taken up an Airbnb for like 2 weeks, and I still didn't really know where I was going to live. That finding new college and how I actually came into this college is a different story, and that's a whole different story. But yeah, that's how I got into medicine, man. That's why I own this stat. That's why I live in Sydney. That's why I have that like I look back at it and I'm like, if I didn't come to Sydney, I wouldn't have met so many amazing people that are now a huge part of my life. It's really crazy, like how that one phone call has completely changed how I function. It really has. Like, I really can't imagine. I have completely lucked out into an amazing university. I've completely lucked out into some amazing people. Sometimes whatever's meant to be is going to happen. I haven't actually told this story in a very long time, but yeah, now you think about it, crazy, right? I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. That's it from me for today. And I'll see you guys for my next stream. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you want to see more of my videos, you can click right over there. If you want to subscribe to my channel because you like this video so much, you can click right over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Big love from the big man.